trusted name in news.
He wants to pull out of Iraq, end the war on drugs, and abolish the income tax. Republican presidential hopeful Ron Paul is not what you would seem to be your typical Republican candidate. He's sitting at the bottom of the polls here in Iowa, but he says he could surprise some people today. Congressman Ron Paul joins us now. A lot of people think that you're outside of the mainstream of the Republican Party, but if you look back over history, I mean, you're right in line with the original principles of the Republican Party, are you not?
I think so. I mean, remember when Republicans were conservative, they wanted to balance the budget and cut back government, and, you know, I just think I feel very comfortable as a Republican. You know, I've been elected 10 times, but when you look at what we did once we got in power, we didn't do a very good job. We doubled the size of the Department of Education, and we used to be elected to end wars, and now we got ourselves into a mess, and it's sort of a quagmire now. And so people are unhappy with Republicans, and I'm trying to, you know, reinvigorate the party and go back to their basic principles, which really is defending the Constitution and individual liberty.
You have a tremendous well of support on the internet. Anytime we ever do anything on our website with the name Ron Paul attached to it, we get so many hits. It's cannot be believed. You have also raised in the fourth quarter of this year $20 million, including $10 million that was raised in two one-day campaign blitzes. But it hasn't yet translated into broad support in the polls. Why not?
I don't think anybody has that full answer. I think today we're going to find out a few answers. Maybe the individuals that support me haven't been on the voting polls, and that they will register and come out. And it is true, we have a lot of disaffected Republicans who have not been voting much lately and maybe dropped out 2 years ago, and they might be the people who are being called, the people who voted in 06. And we have a lot of young people just voting for the first time, but we have a lot of older people join in. They said, you know, they're 50, 60. We had two people this weekend call in and said, I'm 70 years old and this is the first time I've ever voted. So we've touched on something that I think very important, that people see some hope with what we're doing, and they're invigorated.
Well, there's a lot of energy and excitement surrounding the caucuses. I want to ask you about some of the issues. There's one thing I wanted to get clear on here, because I've read a lot of your interviews, and I haven't really gotten myself clear on this. Your foreign policy, you want to pull out of Iraq, but not only that, you want to bring U.S. troops home from everywhere around the world. Korea, Japan, Germany. You also have said in interviews you don't think that there's any chance that Iran would ever attack Israel. What do you do as far as foreign policy? Do you withdraw within America's borders and hope that nothing happens before you have a chance to respond to it? It gets out of control before you have a chance to respond?
Well, what we want to do is not get involved in these unnecessary regions. Every civil war...
But sometimes you can't help it.
Well, yeah, we can. That's my point. If we took the advice of the founders and had a non-interventionist foreign policy, right now we're engaged in Pakistan. But we just invested $10 billion to buy support from Musharraf. I think it's a lousy investment.
So let me ask you this question. What is the difference between a non-interventionist policy and an isolationist policy, which some people believe?
Yes, and there is a big difference. An isolationist really wants to withdraw in the borders, and they don't want to trade with people and travel and talk to people, and they want to isolate themselves. They're sort of mercantilistic. They think they can make everything. See, this whole notion that we have to be absolutely energy independent is sort of an old-fashioned notion. And Japan is never going to be energy independent. You know, they import oil because they don't have anything. So in the modern age of economic understanding is you don't need to withdraw yourself. So the founders advise and the market advises that you travel, you engage yourself, you go through diplomacy, but you especially trade with people. For instance, we've done ourselves a great deal of harm by not talking and trading with Cuba. I mean, the Canadians trade with Cuba, but American citizens don't even have the right to go to Cuba.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who wonder how you could engage with North Korea and China.
And we talk with the Soviets, you know, and so it doesn't make any sense that we're so intimidated and so frightened that we won't even talk to the Cubans, and they're not going to attack us.
I also want to get myself straight on your policy toward earmarks. You want to abolish the system of earmarks, but am I correct in assuming, in reading this, that as long as the system exists at present, you're going to make sure that people in your congressional district get their fair share?
That's basically it. I'm a representative, and they make requests. It's sort of like if an individual comes and he has Social Security benefits or even food stamps. It's a program. I'm going to help them work out their problems with the federal government. But there's also a constitutional issue. Who has the responsibility of spending money and designate how it's going to be spent? The Congress or the executive branch? For instance, everybody knows about the Bridge to Nowhere. It was an earmark. And
Not necessary to nowhere.
Yeah, it was secretly done, and that was wrong. But once it became known, the Congress went, and removed the earmarks, but they still got the money because the executive branch did it.
But what happens if you abolish the system? Then there's no more money coming back to the district.
No, it all stays there, and they have more because you never get your money back. All you get is less money, more bureaucrats, more regulations. So if you didn't have a Department of Education, every state would have more money, not less money, and they wouldn't have no child left behind to deal with. They hurt themselves. This pretense that if you go to Washington and you hire a bunch of bureaucrats and politicians to run your life, you're better off. But the American people have awakened now to realize we're not better off with the federal government running our lives and running the economy.
Congressman Ron Paul, it's always great to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for dropping in. Good luck in the caucuses tonight.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll be watching. Now let's go back up to New York, and here's Gary.